Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Shit's Hard. I'm your host, Amber. And this is going to be an interesting episode. I just got back from my hometown. If you're unaware, that's Findlay, Ohio. I'm a Midwest bestie, and I've been living in LA for like 2.5 years now. I go home probably like once a year or less. It's kind of expensive. And if you've been following along on the podcast, you know that I have a bit of a interesting family dynamics, especially giving the title of this episode. So this was my first time going home after one of my siblings went no contact with my parents. So obviously this has led to like, I don't even want to say tension, because it wasn't like the trip home wasn't like that. My family's not super direct. They really would prefer to slip everything under the rug, which is ultimately probably what led my sibling to what they decided, because my parents love to start shit, have problems, and then just like pretend it didn't happen. I feel like most of my childhood was like, hold on, there's like a ton of dog hair on the mic. Okay, whatever. My entire childhood was like, obviously kids fight with parents, whatever, but like my parents would just like not say anything about it, and then next time I would see them, they'd be like, what do you want for dinner, sweetie? And we very much would just pretend that nothing happened. Obviously this is like traumatizing for a kid. You grow up and you like don't really know how to manage conflict, and you think that you're supposed to slip things under the rug, and you get very comfortable with that. But then you also deal with these like internal feelings of like, oh, but like it doesn't feel like this is resolved, but like we're just supposed to act like it is. Like that's odd. That's weird. Not really what they teach in school. So this was an interesting trip home. Coming home after you've moved away, especially when you've, grown a lot. If you move away from home, you're going to grow a lot inevitably. But when you come back, especially if like depending on your parents, and if you have like not a great situation there, my parents are the exact same, which is like frustrating, right? Because they're doing things the exact same. That house is the same. They behave the same. They operate the same. And I have changed a lot. I've changed in like insurmountable amounts in like every way possible. I've changed how I operate, how I live day to day, how I eat, how I dress, what I do, what are my hobbies, like, and then how I manage conflict, shit that I put up with, shit that I don't put up with. All of that has changed. And they like, in terms of us getting older and my sibling basically deciding to go no contact, my parents have kind of taken like we're old. We're incapable of change. We're in our 60s. Like, you want us to change now? Like they're basically claiming like they want to play the dementia card a little bit too early. They're like, I'm incapable, which is not true. Unless, maybe you are struggling with some things mentally, or you're 6 feet under, you are capable of change. And so I think that excuse is a cop-out. I think it's a really shitty one at that. And I think that they're paying the price for that by not having one of their kids in their lives now. And I get it. And I think like my parents feel that a little bit from me too. Not that I'm no contact, but I really don't go home often. I go home once a year, if that. And then, even on this trip when I did come home, this was fucking, okay. This was pissing me off too. So my best friend of like 20 years now, we met when we were like 4 or 5. She was turning 25 this weekend. And I was like, all right, perfect. Like I didn't go home for Christmas. Good time to go home. I'm going to go down to Columbus, see her. I surprised her for her birthday. So that was like kind of what my trip was based around. But obviously like I spent time at my parents. I spent time at my siblings. I spent time in Columbus. I even went to Cincinnati, saw another friend there, came back. Like I had multiple dinners with my parents. So it's not like I totally wasn't there, but the trip was like divided. It was like a bunch of birds, one stone. And so my mom, which I heard from my brother, that my mom, like before I was even coming home, was making comments about Amber's only going home. Amber's only coming home for Cassie's birthday. She's not coming home to see us, like whatever. Which is just shitty at that. And my brother was like, yeah, it just makes me feel shitty because it feels like mom is like, Amber's not coming home to see you. And I'm like, I don't understand why she acts this way. Like, honestly, if I didn't have any friends there, I'd probably barely go home, but I do enjoy seeing my siblings. And I enjoy seeing my dad, but it's just like everything with her is a thing. And it's just like to hear about your kid who hasn't been home in a year and to hear she's like complaining that it's like for my best friend's birthday and not for her or whatever. It's just like, dude, whatever. Anyways, that was triggering. I think going home in general can be triggering for me. I don't know about y'all, but I feel like when I go home, I revert back to my pre-healed self where I turn into this angry 16-year-old girl who has no patience. And sometimes I feel like it brings out the worst in me. This trip was fine. I think it was honestly good because I went to Columbus for a day and I went to Cincinnati for a day. So I wasn't like, if I was straight up at my parents' house for 5 days, I would have lost my shit. I feel like I've learned that my limit is like 4 days is like about how long I can spend there until I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go home. But another thing that was pissing me off was, okay, so long story short, my dad has had shoulder surgery, so he can't drive. I've been in LA for almost 3 years. My dad is always the one who comes to get me from the airport. My mom would never do that. She just like doesn't give a fuck. She doesn't have the time. She does have the time. She works a 9 to 5. Like my whole life, she's not had the time for me. But my dad has somehow, and they work the same hours. But again, he can't drive. So I had tried to ask my brother, but he was working, and whatever. It ended up that my mom ended up picking me up. And I think also with my sibling going no contact, my mom is like trying to make up for that and be like, oh no, like I'm a really good mom. Like, see, like I went to get her from the airport. But like, I can't remember if I've already told this story on the podcast. So forgive me if this is a repeat. But last time that I was home, my dad was taking me to the airport. We were getting ready to go to Detroit. And my mom was talking to her boss on like a Zoom chat in the other room. And she's like, yeah, my daughter, she's from California. She's going back home today. And her boss was like, oh, take the rest of the day off. Go spend it with her. Have fun. Like whatever. You don't get to see her often. Whatever. So my mom's like, great. Amazing. Gets the rest off. My dad is like, oh, like, would you want to come to Detroit with us? We're going to go a little bit early and get dinner in Detroit and then take her to the airport. My mom's like, no. And she leaves it at that. So me and my dad go. We go to the airport. We have dinner. We have a good time. To be honest with you, I didn't really want her to come anyways, but I thought it was hilarious that she said no, because it's like that is a perfect example of my mom putting on a presentation and a show to the rest of the world that she's a great mom and this and that and the other, but she doesn't actually give a fuck. And my sibling texted me like an hour later once I was in Detroit and was like, Mom's watching TV. I was like, at this point, it's just funny. Like, obviously, it's very shitty, but like, it's just like, why? Like, what? Whatever. Enjoy the day off, Mom. Like, she called off so much work while I was home, even knowing that I was going to Cincinnati and Detroit, and like definitely told her work, like, my daughter's coming in. I need the time off. When she knew I was going to be in Cincinnati and Columbus, whatever. Take the day off. I don't really care. You can use me as an excuse. That's fine. But like in a nutshell, that's the circumstance. And so this time, since my dad's shoulder was broken and her other kid was like, I'm dipping out. I don't want to be a part of this. She was like, oh, I'll come get you from the airport, whatever. She's been talking about it all week. I'm sure she's told everyone how, you know, how rigorous and laborious it was to come get me from the airport, whatever. And it's so far. It's like an hour and a half. It's really not that far. And from my hometown to Detroit, it's like an easy drive. Traffic is not like whatever. Anyways, but she shows up at the airport and they park and they get out of the car and they're waiting for me a baggage claim, which just triggered me in general because don't like just fucking like just stay in the loop. Just pick me up. Like I'll come out, whatever. They're at baggage claim. I come out. And she is like bouncing up and down. She's like, hi, oh, my baby home. She's like literally teary-eyed. And I'm just immediately triggered because I'm in my hometown. I'm dealing with this shit. And I'm like, literally last time I was home, you didn't even want to go to the airport with my dad. Why are we putting on this show? That's not true. The show is not true. She doesn't actually give a fuck that I'm home, which is honestly fine. You don't have to give a fuck. But putting on the show, it's like, for me, it's like 10 times more triggering to have a parent who has really let you down for a long time, 24 years plus. And then, but they want to really overemphasize that that's not true. That's not reality. They didn't let me down. They're great. They're like, and they really want to present to the world and paint this picture for the rest of the world that it was all great and happy dandy. And it's like, that's more frustrating. And I'm not even asking for accountability at this point because I know we're long past that. I'm just asking for us to not keep up the charade because it's exhausting and triggering and just like all around frustrating. So that was bothering me, and the rest of the trip was kind of like that. Like, of course, we got lunch and dinner a few times, and it was fine. Like, it's a good time. But like, what's even more triggering for me is we had breakfast with my brother, and it was me, my current partner, my brother, and like my parents. And my mom's like asking the server for a photo and saying like, it's just so good to have all my kids back together. Mind you, my other sibling is not there, who had no contact, and it's just like, it's like, why? Like, what is happening? It's just like the most infuriating thing. And it's like, I'm at the point now where I don't really feel the need to say anything. When I was younger, I was mouthy as hell. I would like, you know what people say, pick your battles? I would pick every fucking battle. Anything that like was like a problem, I was going to call it out. I was not willing to bite my tongue at all. And it got me in trouble a lot. And that's why her relationship with me was probably bad, like the worst out of all three siblings for like probably the first 18 years. When I went to college, I just was like, I'm out. I'm done with this shit. So I never moved back home. My siblings got like a different experience as kids than I, but especially a different experience as adults than I, because they stayed in my hometown. So they've been like around. And so I feel like my mom needs a target. She needs like a person. And for, you know, me being born up until 18, it was me. I was the target. I was the problem child. I was the spawn of Satan. I was an issue. I was materialistic. I was asking for too much. I was doing too much, like whatever. It was like traumatic from 0 to 18 to where I was like, I'm not ever coming back to this. But I feel like once I left, it became my sibling. They're the ones who became like the target of like the problem. You're the problem child. You're causing issues. You're making my life, whatever. To be completely honest, I don't really know what my mom's issue is. I kind of feel like she didn't really want to be a parent. Maybe societal pressures and keeping up with the Joneses made her feel like that's what she wanted. But to be honest with you, I think she'd just be happy being childless. Like I genuinely think she'd be living her life. She wouldn't be causing any problems. She'd be working, vibing, like whatever. That's not the path she chose. So whatever, we're here now. And I feel like that's ultimately what led my sibling to be like, I'm fucking done with this shit. They were staying with my parents, long story short, like that's not my story to tell, but it just became too much. And they were like, I'm out. Like, so they bought their own house, they built their own house, they moved out and they're chilling, vibing, etc. So, that's really frustrating, I think, is like sitting at a dinner table with my mom and her being like, oh, my kids are here. And it's like, what's wrong? Like, mind you, also, this sibling of mine happens to be like trans non-binary and had like changed their name, I don't know, 2018 or something like that, 2020, I can't remember. As soon as they go into contact with my mom immediately goes back to dead naming them and like calling them she, her, which is equally as frustrating because it's just like that was a whole big thing in the family like 2-3 years ago. And I came home and was like, you know, my sibling was coming out and asking to be called by a different name. I was like, my parents were like, oh, like this is difficult for us. Like, we only know he has this name. I was like, who gives a fuck? They're really not asking for that much. All you have to do is call them by something else. And of course, like, you're going to fuck it up. Like, I'll be real with you. If you guys have anyone who goes by they, them, or changes their name, you're going to fuck it up. Like, it's fucking hard. Like, it's not easy to make that transition in your brain when you've never been doing it. But, like, just fucking try to be better. Like, you know, you fuck it up, just correct yourself. Just fucking, like, that's all. It doesn't have to be that deep. I promise you, like, as long as they're a level-headed person, they're going to be forgiving. Only so forgiving, though, okay? Because, like, I'm saying, like, you can have some grace for, like, a year or so, but, like, you don't need 3 years. If you're 3 years later, if you're still fucking up, you're not trying. Sorry. My parents are not trying. My parents have actually both reverted back to she, her. And it was funny because I brought my partner with me on this trip. And he has never known my sibling as anyone else. He has never known their name. He just knows them as this name, their current name. And so when my mom started dead naming them, my partner was like, who are we talking about? It's like, oh, don't mind my mom just misgendering my sibling. Like, fuck this. I was like, this is why I don't come on. It's just frustrating, and all the problems root back to her. So this trip home, it was fine, right? Like, I do this once a year. My partner, like, at the airport was like, why do you do this? Like, why do you, if it's so bothersome, why do you put up with it? And I was like, I mean, it's not so bothersome because I really do only put up with this once a year. I don't go home. And to be honest with you, I stopped answering her phone calls and text messages, like, not, a couple months ago. And, she stopped calling. So it's like, I'm always asking myself with everyone, friends and family, what is this relationship costing me? And what is it giving me? It's certainly hard to put that in perspective with my mom because I don't know what it's giving me. But certainly it's not costing me as much as it used to. When I was living there, as I was living in that state, when I was financially reliant on them and her, that was quite costly. Granted, what was I getting? I was getting like, money. The ability to like live and support myself. Well, I guess not support myself. They were supporting me. Now I don't really need that. I don't really rely on them. I pay for a lot of my own shit, and like, that's not really a problem anymore. I do have a safety net. Like, again, this podcast is supposed to be transparent. So like, of course, if I need something, like if shit really hits the fan, I can ask them for help. But it's just like, it's going home is hard. I don't know. I don't even want to say it's hard. It wasn't that hard. I don't know what it was. It's just different. It's just like a once a year thing where I just transform myself back to this triggering place. And it's like, this is what we do once a year. And I feel bad because I know my dad wishes I went home more. And I wish I saw him more. Like, I'm like, I don't know why you don't fucking come out here. I don't know. Come visit me. But it's just like, it's too much. Every time I go home, it's just too much to do that too often. And so it was a good trip. I saw my friends. I surprised my best friend. So I did have a good time, and I'm glad I got to see my friends. I'm glad I got to see my siblings. And my one sibling bought the new house, so I got to go see their house, and it was really cool. I was like, this is lit. House is cool. They got a new puppy. Puppy's fucking adorable. So cute. He reminded me of my ex's dog. So it was a good trip, and I'm glad I came home, and I got to like, spend some quality time, play some games with my siblings. We played some video games and stuff, but it just can be a mentally exhausting and taxing being around my mom. And it's like all for show. It's like realistically, I don't know. I do think also every time I go home and I interact with like other people my age, I feel like okay, so I'm very sensitive to my environment, and I've made that clear on this podcast. And me moving across the country and pursuing what I want to pursue was really hard for me. And I think it's so much easier in LA. Like, I was talking to one of my friends, and she's like, oh yeah, like my sister, whatever the fuck, they have a house and wherever the fuck. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, are they renting or do they own it? And they were like, they're in their like they're like 31, like they own it, like they're adults. And I was like, oh my God. We are not in LA anymore. Like, fucking total. We are not in Kansas anymore. I was like, 31-year-olds in California do not own houses. It's not like, it's not that typical, the Joneses, the Smiths, get married, have kids, get your college degree, buy your house, get the white picket fence. It's not like that out here. You meet so many cool people who are at all stages of life, all walks of life, pursuing something new. I love experiencing this through my clients. I have like a 32-year-old client right now. Actually, I think she's 33. 33-year-old client right now who works in the entertainment industry, and she wants to get into like writing. She wants to become a writer, and she's taking writing classes. And I'm like, this is so exciting. And I love somebody who's at 33 and not afraid to make that career change. And I think if you were in somewhere like Ohio, you would have a harder time making that career change, and you would have a hard time getting peer support making a career change, I think, in my experience, because I think by then it's like people expect you to have your career figured out by 33. People expect you to be buying a house by 33. And she didn't mean anything by this, by the way. My friend was not like, you idiot, you better have your life together at 33. That's not what she was saying. It really like reminded me that is the norm there, is to be married in your 20s, purchasing a house in your 30s. And it's like, again, I'm not saying everyone in Ohio does this. I'm making a ton of blanket general statements. It's just the way that I feel in that state and in that space, even in the bigger cities. That's just what I love about LA is people are more supportive of wherever the fuck you are in life. I have another friend who's 31. She doesn't own a fucking house. Like, and that's not weird. That's like normal. Actually, I think all of the people that I know who are 30 are still renting. I don't think I know anyone in their 30s. I know one person in their early 40s, I think. Oh, maybe that's late 30s, who owns property, and they actually own it with 3 other friends. They own one like condo, I think, and they bought it. He had bought it with like 3 other friends. So it's like, I don't know. It was interesting to be like, they're in their 30s, like they're adults, and they're like, that's what you do in your 30s. I was like, I don't know. I know so many people who are like just doing all kinds of different crazy shit in LA. And I think I like that better, and I fit in better in LA because I don't feel the pressure to be at a certain point in life. I think when I come home, I feel that pressure. I was talking to my best friend who I came home for her birthday, and she was like, yeah, I never felt like I was like behind or anything. I was like, you're not fucking behind. We're 24. We are truly still infants. Like, we are literally, like, I don't know what you mean by behind. She has a full-time job. She works as a nurse. She has a partner. She has a 1-bedroom apartment. Like, she doesn't have roommates anymore. I'm like, what are you behind on? Like, you're ahead of the majority of 24-year-olds. Well, I guess 25 now. She just turned today. But so I thought that was a silly comment because she mentioned that one of her friends is 27 and they just bought a house and they're engaged. And she's like, oh, I feel like I'm like behind them. And I think comparison sucks. Like, in general, no matter where you live, comparison sucks. Like, that is the thief of joy, truly. It's like the worst. But I felt like when I was in Ohio, I felt that comparison, that societal pressure more. I felt it like deeper. And I think it's, for me anyway, my experience when I was there, you might have a different experience. My experience when I was there was like, it's very like the culture, it's very socially normal to expect people to be married before they're 30, purchasing a home in their 30s, having a full-time stable income at a corporate office in their late 20s. Like, that is the social, like, that is the culture, that is normal. And if you're doing something outside of that, it can be judgmental. Again, this is just my experience, but I felt judged in the space if I wasn't keeping up with that narrative. And that's what I didn't like about Ohio. And that's what just didn't work for me. Again, I'm sure it's different in the bigger cities. It's probably different in Cleveland. But I mean, I don't know. My friend lives in fucking Columbus and like, they're still like, you know what I mean? And just LA, it's truly a bubble. And it's good to get out of the bubble. I'll say that much, because it's good to remind yourself that the rest of the world is not the same as LA. Because LA has it has its flaws too. Like, let me be clear. It has its flaws too, but that's one thing that I enjoy and I struggle with when I leave LA. And I enjoy this when I go to New York too, because it's kind of similar, LA and New York, where it's like people are doing different shit. They're at all different walks of life. There is no expectation. Like, nobody's like, oh, you're 30 and you're not married. Oh, you don't even have a serious partner. Oh my God. Like, it's just not like that at all. The vibe is like following your passions and trying new things and having multiple jobs and doing different things. Like, it's just like very fun and experimenting and learning more about yourself. And I feel more comfortable in LA being like, yeah, I'm a podcaster and I'm a personal trainer. And like, I don't work for a corporate office and I don't really have job stability. And, you know, I gotta work on sales and things like that. But I do make my own schedule and I kind of work for myself. Not really, but like kind of in terms of like autonomy over schedule and time off and things like that. So, I don't know. That's one thing that I feel when I come home, and I'm not judging anybody who's there doing these things, right? Like, I have no judgment for anyone who genuinely like met their partner when they're young and wants to marry them when they're 26 and wants to buy the house when they're 30. Like, I'm not judging that. I think what I don't like is feeling the pressure that I'm supposed to be doing that too, and there's something wrong if you're not. And I even mean like in social groups when they talk about like somebody else, they'll be like, oh, like, did you hear about so-and-so? Like, you know, like I don't even know. I can't think of an example because my friends aren't assholes. Like, my friends aren't shitty. So like, I think they're living in that environment, and I can see how it affects them a little bit, but they're not like contributors. Like, my friends aren't like, oh, did you hear that one stupid bitch? Like, she's not fucking married. Like, they're not like that. They're not judging me. At least I don't think so. I don't feel that way about them. But it's just like, I don't know. It feels like the vibe there. So I'm so grateful to be back in LA. I'm grateful to be back with my dog. The weather's much better here. The sun is shining. So I'm definitely happy to be back, but it's a rough trip home, and it was good, like, coming home. And to be honest with you, like, my sibling going no contact didn't come up too much while I was home. Really, like, I just, like, kind of had it's like divorced parents. It was, like, finding time for them and finding time for my parents and, like, separating that. And I don't know. It's just different. So it's just getting used to a new normal as I come home. It is what it is. So I think overall it was a good trip. I'm happy to be back. And it's always good to get out of the LA bubble and just like remind yourself of what's going on in other areas, because it really is so different. I was mentioning to my partner on the way back, I was like, you know what's funny? Like, when I come home, I remember things like this, because I was like, last time I was in Ohio and living there, I was like 21, 22. And I've been here for like 23, 24. So I noticed like the culture is different, obviously, and the social norms is different. So like I walk into my friend's house in LA and like they have reusable paper towels. They don't buy regular paper towels. That's like normal here. And like I have a roommate here who we kind of had a conversation about like composting and like saving organics and like throwing it into that bucket. And like, you know, we don't buy dryer sheets anymore because they're super wasteful and we get like wool balls. And I feel like this is like socially pretty normal here to be like, especially politics is so socially normal here. If you've been listening to my channel, you know my politics probably, like I'm not hiding that. And so I deleted Amazon recently and I was like, fuck Jeff Bezos, fuck capitalism. Like realistically, there's nothing I'm getting on there that I need to get from there. I can get it from somewhere else. So I deleted it. So and like that's pretty normal. Like I talk openly with my roommates, my friends about like deleting Amazon or trying to use it less and trying to like make more political decisions based on my, like knowing that my money talks, trying to not give money to Target because they've cut their DEI funds, and trying to give, you know, more to local businesses or shop at the farmer's market or buy from people more if I can. Again, like I'm not fucking balling out here. So like it's expensive. But trying to just like make those conscientious like financial decisions within politics, and like nobody, at least none of my friends, not from my experience, are spending their money that way. They're not really thinking about like, oh, I shouldn't be ordering from Amazon because this is contributing to this, and this. I'm not saying they don't care. I think it's, I don't know, to be honest with you, I haven't really talked to them about it. These are people that I talk to once every like 4 to 6 months. But I think that kind of stuff is important. A lot of my friends here think that's like normal. And like even my clients, it's like very normal to be like, yeah, I deleted Amazon. Like that kind of stuff, or like fuck Tesla, or that kind of stuff is very normal here. It's really not socially normal there. So I don't know. I noticed that when I was home, just like being like politically active about the climate and current politics and what's going on right now in America is super normalized here in California. Like I said, even when I'm at work, my clients will bring it up to me. A lot of my clients share the same political views as me. So it's just like, I don't know, it's interesting. And then I go home and it's like, they don't really talk about that kind of stuff. And they're like, oh, I ordered this from Amazon. And like, you know, they're like not thinking about composting, or like I would be shocked if I walked into my friend's house in Ohio and she was using reusable paper towels. I'd be like, what the fuck? So it's funny to see those kind of differences. But anyways, it's always good to get out of the LA bubble. I'll say that. So that's all I've got for you this week. If you're struggling with family dynamics, anybody going no contact, or trying to, you know, you got out of the nest and you come back home and you're like, fuck, nothing's changed since I left. Good thing you left. I'll say that. Good thing you left. My uncle said that to me actually before I moved out to LA, like 2 weeks before. He was like, you know what? You know something about moving away, Amber? And I was like, what? He's like, every time you come home, nothing's changed. He's like, everything's exactly the same. But you go out there and there's things moving, parts are moving, things are happening. You come back home and you're like, oh, I didn't miss anything. Nothing happened. And it's true. So good thing you left. I'm proud of you for growing. And if it's hard for you to come home because things are the same, that means that you've grown. That means that you've changed. And I'm proud of you for that. So that's all I've got for you. I will see you in the next one, because this shit is hard.